of 1988, and I'm a major gift officer at St. Anselm College. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Post-Draft Patriots Recap, presented by Tom E. Curran and moderated by President Favaza. The college is committed to keeping our alumni and friends engaged during this time, and we hope that you've been enjoying these webinars that we've produced over the last few weeks. Please reach out to the Alumni Relations Office if you have any suggestions on future webinars. Today's webinar will be recorded and it will be posted on the website very soon. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask questions for Dr. Favaza, and Dr. Favaza will ask the questions to Tom. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Joseph A. Favaza, the 11th president of St. Anselm College. He began his tenure just about 10 months ago. And in this time, he has listened and learned to our community, embraced our Benedictine spirit, and he's done an incredible job guiding the college through this recent pandemic and unprecedented times in the world and certainly at St. Anselm College. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Favaza.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you, Doctor.
As many of you know, even though I grew up in the South, I've been up in New England since 2005, and since then have become a huge Patriots fan. People ask me about this all the time, and I think it must be in the water or something. I'm not sure, but I'm excited to be part of today's webinar. I'd like to introduce you all to Tom E. Curran. Tom is an alum from the class of 1989 and has been a leading voice on the Patriots and the NFL since 1997. Tom covered the Patriots during their post-Tuna fall and the Belichick-Brady era. He is a regular contributor to WEEI, to the NFL Network, ESPN Radio, and Pro Football Weekly, to name just a few of the media outlets that he is an active part of. Tom Curran's voice and leading edge analysis has set him apart locally and nationally. So please join me in welcoming Tom E. Curran. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thank you. Now, do I call you President, Doctor? Should I call you Joe? Should I call you the Big Faz?
Joe is great.
All right.
All right.
How you doing? Well, before we get into the football, I bet there's a million people who are curious. I mean, you've been here 10 months and you got a curveball thrown at you. How's it going?
You know, it's luckily get to work with some great people, and I'm not shouldering this on my own, and that's good. Though one of the monks did ask me, who do I think will play me in the movie about my first year as a president? So we'll see.
Clooney, perhaps.
I don't think so. But no, it's really great that you're here, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested in what's going on with the Patriots.
Sure. No, I mean, there's never a doubt that people are. And the cool thing about it is that as much as Brady and Gronkowski and the 9 Super Bowls and the 6 titles and the perennial excellence are a part of what everyone's experienced, I think people are really primed for what's next and what will happen next. Not that they wanted Brady to go necessarily, although I think some people did, Joe, by the end. We're like, okay, we're all set with TB12. I personally had a great relationship with them, and I would have preferred to see them find a way to take it to the end. But that's really not the way that Bill Belichick is wired. He's a rebooter. He's a tinkerer. He wants to restructure things, and that's what they did. I will tell you that I did a poll the other day, Joe, and Sunday morning, 8 o'clock, it was beautiful. And I had this question just digging in my head to try and, because I knew it'd get great engagement. So I put it on Twitter. What's your relationship now with Tom Brady now that he's in Tampa Bay? And 4 options. The first was Brady first. The second was Patriots 1, Brady 1A. The third was kind of over it, to be honest. And the third one was not here, don't care. This is Sunday morning, the nicest day we had, vitamin D flying everywhere, plenty of mulch to get spread, tulips to get planted and picked. I had 31,000 votes on the thing and wow. 330 comments. And the leading one was basically, as you might expect, it's Patriots and Brady 1 and 1A. Mm-hmm. but the comments and there was 50% for that, and then there was 17% for I'll follow Brady first.
Huh.
So between the two, that's 67. The other two were split kind of close, but it just shows you how engaged Patriots fans are. And that's why I'm sure we'll get a whole pile of conversation here and questions, and I'm happy to answer them because I'm lucky to have dumbed into this job and this career, Joe.
Okay. Well, we do have some questions coming in, and I'm fascinated with that poll because, I was one of those people, I think, that wasn't sure how I felt about it all. There's a part of me, of course, that said, maybe it's time to reboot, especially after last season. But then again, you're so committed to Brady and the history and the marquee value of his presence. But so it's a tough one. And so I probably would have answered that poll with the 1 and the 1A.
Let me ask you this. And we're getting the schedule tonight, and I want to hear what fans have to say, or folks, not fans, what our alumni have to say as they pop on too. But we get the schedule tonight. Say the Patriots are at 425 and the Bucks are at 425. And I know we have Red Zone and everything else, but one's on Fox and the other's on CBS. And you got an option to watch the first drive for either the Patriots in 2020 or Tom Brady and the Bucks. Which TV are you going to watch first? You only got one chance. Which one are you going to watch? I know where
I'd watch the Patriots.
I'd watch Brady. Not all year, probably not in week 5, but that first one, I'd want to see the great unveiling.
Well, the first one maybe, but long term, I think I'm going to watch the Patriots. Now, having said that, a lot's going to depend on how this team comes together, right? I mean,
yes.
If they're losing every game, then I might be drifting over to watch Brady, even if he's losing every game also. So we'll see.
See, we got options. We got two people banged in. They'd be watching Brady first. George Dunham and the Luger was one of them.
Yeah. So here's a question. It's kind of out of the blue here. He says, thanks so much for doing this, Tom. Any thoughts on LSU's players taken in this year's draft? Should the Pats have drafted any of them? So
well,
that's a question.
It's a good question, too. And there was a player named Grant Delpit, who's a safety, who was fairly well decorated, and he was on the board for a long time. And the Patriots instead took a kid from Division II, Lenore-Rhine, in North Carolina. And my colleague, Phil Perry, who covers the Patriots with me, my first inclination was, every time you take a second-round defensive back, Bill, he is not worked out in the past 5 years. There's a litany of them. And I felt this, why are we going now to a point where you're not going to take a decorated one, you're going to go even further off the board. But what my friend Phil figured out and found was, there's a lot of alliteration, Tricia, my English major friend, was that the guys that they were taking, Alabama's Cyrus Jones or Florida's Duke Dawson and a couple other guys, they didn't have the measurables that this kid from Lenore-Rhine has. He can jump out of the gym. He's extremely fast. He's 6'1", 216. He's got punt return skills. He is a 99% kind of athlete, and the other guys were 75% kind of athletes. So the Patriots are clearly chasing some athleticism this year, which makes sense because as the NFL continues to morph into, Joe, more of a 7-on-7 flag football mode where guys are spread and you have to cover huge spaces, you need athletes. You can't have just thinkers. And I think that's a good question about the LSU guys relative to that position.
We have our athletic director, Darren Montgomery, went to Lenore-Rhine, and he's over the moon that they drafted a guy from the Division II, which of course we're excited about a Division II player as well, making.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So here's another question. Tom, do you see the Patriots making a move for any players that got their fifth-year options rejected, like Hooker, Ross, Reddick? Obviously, some contracts would need to be restructured to take on more salary.
That's a great question. It's one that if posed via text, I could quickly open a window, look at the names, and do a quick little some machinations mentally because they don't pop to my head. But yes, those guys whose fifth-year options are rejected, why are they, what's that mean? Why is it important? It means a rookie has come close to the end of his fifth-year contract. A team has the option to pick that player up if he was a first-round pick, to pick up that player's fifth-year option, and they pay him a set amount. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head again, but it's a percentage of cap, or it's a top 10 of what players at his position make in the league. Anyway, so those players who had their fifth-year option declined will be free agents at the end of the year. Doesn't mean that player sucks, just means he's about to have his contract run out. Do you want him as a rental? Guys like Laquan Treadwell, Josh Doxson were in that group, bigger wide receivers last year. They're always candidates. They're always low-cost, high-upside players who, for one reason or another, haven't worked out. I think right now the Patriots have so little cap space, they can't make those moves. But as we see, if we just project a normal course of action for the NFL this year, for the hell of it, we don't know if it will be or not. I would think that by July, August, September, October, definitely, again, projecting a normal season, which we're not going to have, those players could be certainly attractive to the Patriots.
Yeah, yeah. This question I'm going to ask you, and I have no idea, because unfortunately I had to miss your first webinar because
you missed out.
But the question is, has Tom had a chance to answer the questions from the previous webinar? Were there questions that were unanswered from the previous?
There was about 77 of them. And as you all do, I mean, everybody, you have to allocate your time where you can. And I said, 77 questions. It's just before the draft. It's just after the Brady stuff. Maybe I'll just do another webinar and answer the questions there. And that's what I had hoped to do. But now we have a new onslaught of questions. So if you want to, if you had a question, whoever posed that, and if you throw the names in too, Joe, they'll be all excited for who's asking. But if you want to throw your question back up and say, this was what I asked last time, maybe we can give it a little priority here.
Okay. So we have a question. Of course, we know the news about the passing of Don Shula this week, one of the all-time great coaches. And so the question obviously is, do you think Belichick will break his victory record?
He's about 45 to 50 wins away. He's about to be 68, Bill is. He said in the past, I'm not going to be coaching into my 70s like Marv Levy. That was a glib comment for Bill to throw out there that he believed about 10 years ago. He has since backed off that comment and said, I'm going to stick around longer than that. Didn't know what 68 was going to feel like, and it feels better than I thought. He also kind of couldn't stand Marv Levy. So that was an opportunity for Bill, as he is often able to do, to find an avenue to throw a javelin through the heart of somebody else. So he took that opportunity. Do I think he's going to break it? Look, I think the Patriots are a 6 to 8 win team this year. Might be wrong. I know that's heresy, but I think they're a 6 to 8 win team this year. I don't know how they're going to look in 2021, but I think the days of 11 or 12 wins annually are over. So he's going to have to go through some very mediocre seasons. I think he'll want to keep doing it as long as the team's improving, but I don't think, folks, that he'll ever say, I'm going to keep on keeping on just to break that record. As important as history is to him, I just don't think he'll do that.
Well, that relates to another question, which is from Father Stephen. If the Pats have a losing season, does McDaniels become the head coach?
It's a great question, Father. Here's the interesting thing with Josh. Had the opportunity to go to Indianapolis a few years ago. Patriots had made no intimations about keeping him around. No succession plan was in place. The Krafts hadn't talked to him. And then, as you remember, after the 2017 Super Bowl, they said, we can't lose him and Patricia and everybody who's going to go with these guys. So they made a last-ditch effort to keep him around. Josh stayed. There's still no guarantee that he is the successor. And now Stephen Belichick has risen up a little bit, and Gerard Mayo has risen up, and Josh's star has reascended a little bit, as the three different teams who were seeking the opportunity to hire him this past offseason showed. He would have gone, given the right situation, this past offseason. I don't think it's going to turn around that quick where Bill will, after this year, say, you know what, I'm out, give it to Josh. And I don't think that there is that ascendancy plan in place either. So long story short, there's no way for me to predict whether or not it would be Josh. Josh's eyes and ears are open to other opportunities. He was disappointed that he didn't get an opportunity to sit for either the Carolina or the Giants jobs. And I don't know if he really wanted the Cleveland job. But tell you what, think about it, Father. Imagine if he had gone to those jobs and Brady left and you got Jarrett Stidham with a first-year offensive coordinator after a pandemic. I mean, they'd have been hosed trying to get things right. So it's it's just a fascinating reboot going on.
Yeah. Of course, and then the role of Mr. Kraft in all of this is also plays a role, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you've just worked 20 years with Bill, even if Steven seems like a great opportunity, Steven Belichick, who's not the most cuddly guy either, and Bill wants him to just kind of be anointed the next head coach, what's Robert and Jonathan's response to that? Oh, yeah. Now we got 12 years of Steven. I mean, do we want to go 3 decades of Belichick?
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah. Here's a question from Vince Capolupo. Can Tom put a percentage on season starting on time? Oh, can you give us what you think will be the percentage of the season starting on time, games being canceled, and fans being allowed at games?
Okay.
Related to the pandemic, obviously.
I would say that instead of a percentage, here's what I feel will happen. I feel the season will be moved back because training camp is going to be moved back. They'll eliminate, for instance, the bye week that every team has. They may also eliminate the bye week before the Super Bowl. They could push the whole thing back to President's Day with no sweat. I think games could be canceled. I think division games will be prioritized. I think in-conference games will be prioritized. So all those trips out to the NFC West locations, which the Patriots are playing this year, I could imagine that Seattle game could be off. I could imagine that Jimmy Garoppolo visiting the Patriots game could be off because that's an NFC West team with San Francisco. The problem as it exists right now, we keep hearing, Doctor, about testing. Even if you test, I was talking to someone about this, a doctor who does some work with us online anyway. Even if you test and quarantine the players and put them in hotels, like training camp often is, the people who work in the hotel go home at night. The cleaning staff goes home at night. The people who bring the food in go home at night. So it's not going to be an authentic quarantine. So do you test those workers each day as they re-enter the facility? And of course, there's asymptomatic people who could say, I feel fine, they might have it. So there's a risk mitigation that people are going to have to become comfortable with. Voicemail coming in. That people are going to have to become comfortable with. Kareem Jackson, who plays for the Denver Broncos, might be the Texans, he might have jumped, but he said, we don't want to come back until there's 100% guarantee that the players are going to be safe. That's not going to exist pre-vaccine.
Yeah.
So I think stadiums will be empty. Last thing I want is some guy in a Bledsoe jersey screaming about how bad Stidham sucks and just spraying all his bile and germs over my head for 3 hours. So I would say nobody in the stadium.
Yeah.
You think? What are your thoughts? I mean, in my opinion, is as good as anybody else's, and you're the doctor.
Well, I mean, I think we're having similar conversations about reopening the college in the fall, right? And how do we manage residence halls and athletic games, all kinds of things. So yeah, it's a lot unknown at this point. A lot unknown.
What's interesting too, and I know we have questions lining up, is the NFL announced a marginal reopening plan. But they're going to be it's like education. You can only go sometimes in a classroom as fast as your slowest learner. If Massachusetts doesn't give the okay to open up facilities, Georgia and California, or Georgia and Texas are full go, and the Cowboys and Texans are ready to go. Goodell's not going to say, go ahead, you guys can practice, but the Patriots can't. You can't have it.
Right.
So that's going to be a fascinating thing to watch unfold as well.
Yep. Some things are going to be out of our control. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Here's a question. Tom, thanks for your time on this important topic. Again, we are Pats first, Brady 1A in this house, understanding that the truth will out in the season itself, but what team do you think had the best overall draft day? Giants? Who did the Pats not get that you'd love to see suit up in Foxborough?
I thought the Ravens killed it. They added the kid from J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, their all-time leading rusher, just to make a better running game a tick up. They also got a wide out. Again, this is the kind of thing where as my head's sitting here, if I can open a screen, I could tell you this team got all these guys. I didn't think Miami did as well as it could have done with the number of picks that it had. I think Tua at 5 was a bad idea, but and what was the other second part of that question, Doctor?
Who do you think the Patriots, who would you have liked to seen the Patriots get?
I would have liked to have seen a wideout, certainly on the day 3 when they're taking fat offensive linemen from Michigan who are 370 pounds, who I just can't see playing guard and getting out and doing what the Patriots ask their guards to do and being nimble, and taking a place kicker who would have been there as an undrafted free agent when there were still oodles of wide receivers on the board. So
yeah,
that's where I think they kind of swung and missed. It was just at the position of wide receiver.
Well, speaking of offensive linemen, this question from Joe Morrison, with the return of David Andrews and the ascension of young linemen like Kajust, Frohold, and Mike Geary, do you think there's a chance Joe Thuney is traded before the season?
Good question, Joe. And I'm going to try and go quicker on some of these answers to get everybody in. Thuney is franchised, so he's making about $15 million. Patriots only have $1 million in cap space. They would love to keep Thuney around. He's a valuable player. He's a good leader. If they can renegotiate his contract, that means that they would be able to manipulate it, drop his cap number, send some of that money forward, and then clear cap spaces. For folks out there, I'm guessing most know what the cap is. If you don't, the NFL has a hard salary cap. It's close to $200 million that each team can spend on its players each year. And this player, Joe Thuney, is taking up $15 million. They want to keep him around. He's taking up a huge chunk. If they can't reach an accord with him, they may trade him away and bring in or get draft picks back for him. But I think their preference would be to redo him. And there are too many X factors with the Kajusts and the Froholts and at all that are involved now.
Here's a question from Dan Slatt. Why can't the Patriots win 10 games this coming season? Outside of TB12 and normal defection, what has really changed?
Great question. To me, the 12-4 record was a bit of a smoke and mirrors record that they posted. They lost every game to division leaders, not by a little. They got crushed in each one. They also, to boot, in a game they had to have at the end of the season, got whacked by Miami.
Yep.
When you say other than Tom Brady, I mean, say that again to yourself. Other than Tom Brady? I mean, other than Tom, what are you talking about? Other than the greatest quarterback that's ever played, what's different? Well, maybe the year before they lost the greatest tight end who's ever played in many people's estimations, and they still haven't replaced Brandon Cooks or Danny Amendola. What's changed is just this outflow of players, the learning curve that the players who are coming in are going to have to conquer, and the fact that that 12-4 record, while again is tangible, did happen, was in large part compiled against a schedule that wasn't that impressive. And again, and the defensive stuff that we'll cite and say the defense was ridiculously good, some of that, again, it was very good, but it was beaten up on Josh Rosen and the Miami Dolphins in the second week of the season. And it was beaten up on Sam Darnold in his first or second game back, and Luke Falk. And even in the games where they won, those impressive games, if you look at the Dallas game, if you look at the Eagles game, those are games that I remember saying, now's the time to show something. Dallas, Dak Prescott handed him a touchdown by getting picked in his own end. The Eagles, they needed a Julian Edelman touchdown pass. They needed turnovers on special teams to create those. So in my heart of hearts, I'm just trying to be a realist. If you go 12-4 against a bad schedule and really aren't that potent a team last year, and you take the best player who's ever played out of the system, it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying 8-8 is most likely.
And do you think that this draft class that they that they now have can help them in a significant way retool, and who's the one player that they've drafted that you think they're putting a lot of?
Yeah, I think this kid Devin Asiasi could be really good. Took him from UCLA, third-round tight end, really smooth athlete, really good-looking prospect, can be versatile. You've seen tight end after tight end in NFL history develop in a chemistry with a quarterback. Maybe that happens here. N'Keal Harry, if he develops, then you have last year's, because a lot of that draft class was redshirted. But I don't see anybody in the second half of the draft who's going to make a major difference. And I do think that Kyle Duggar, their second-round pick, the first choice that they made, is probably going to apprentice for a year behind McCourty and Chung. So I think Asiasi has the best opportunity to make an impact.
Here's one from Corey Becerra. I'm high on Jacoby Myers, caught everything thrown his way, and so on Harry, you just mentioned. Do you think the Patriots believe that they will develop quickly, and that's why they didn't target WRs in the draft or free agency? Still seems to be the most glaring need. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Corey. I like Myers. He's a 4.6 guy. You can see his limitations in terms of speed. Brady's frustration with him was abundantly clear because it's just so hard for those guys to walk that fine line between doing what Brady wanted them to do, run it to 7, come back to 5, or read the cornerback's shoulders and turn in. And then the other agitation that Brady would have would be, you got to play free. You got to be instinctive. You got to be able to, and it's impossible to be instinctive and not pent up when you're an undrafted free agent the way Jacoby Myers was. So I'm with you on Myers. He's got his limitations. He's a 4.6 guy in terms of the 40, so he's not going to be a big separation guy, but I like the upside to him just as a third wide receiver possibility. That's what I think he can be, a Jabbar Gaffney, that type of level player, and that's not a slight.
I'll combine a couple of questions here. What's your thoughts about Stidham? And is he the guy for 2020 and beyond? And will the Pats sign a proven QB?
I like Stidham. And that catchphrase that, you know how the catchphrases always get in every industry? Now it's arm talent. He has superior arm talent. So the superior arm talent of Stidham, I think, if he was in this year's draft and you knew now what you didn't know last April, wouldn't you agree that Jarrett Stidham probably would have been a top 10 pick? He throws it well. He throws on the run. He's got poise. He's got leadership. He's not as big as some of the guys. But I think he's a terrific prospect. I think they did a great job. And I remember watching him, Joe, in training camp, first couple practice. I'm like, he is overwhelmed. He has no idea where he wants to go with it. Within 7 practices, he did. And that kind of quick maturation, I think, bodes well. And I think that was it. Was it the rest of that question was 2020 or beyond?
Do you think they'll draft? Do you think they'll?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't think it'll be an upper tier guy. And I was told that specifically by a source within the organization. It's not important to them. They just went 20 years with a 6th-round pick. Hoyer is all they really need in terms of hand-holding. I think they'll ride with those two, although I won't be surprised if they continue to try and develop other guys, and they do have a couple undrafted gentlemen on their roster.
Okay. What are your thoughts about, this is from Andrew Dwan. What are your thoughts about, I can never say this, Asiasi? Asiasi. Does the team have concerns with his training? Should we see some good production from him, or will he lack the rookie mini camps delay him? I
remember watching Gronk and Hernandez in 2010 just get ridden like mules by the tight ends coach and Dante Scarnecchia for all that they weren't able to accomplish. And those were idiot savants at the position. They were really smart. So it was, and that was minicamp. So that's what I'm trying to get at is that's an incredibly important portion of the maturation process. And Stidham's missing out on it. Dalton Keene, Stidham, Asiasi, and Dalton Keene are all missing out on that. I wrote a story about that today, about the damage that it can do to a second-year player missing this period of time going into your second year, because that's when these guys make a big jump. So it can't help.
Okay. Here's a question from Drew Litz, who works at
Hey.
CNA. Will the Pats ever beat the Giants in postseason?
Well, I mean, if the Giants can, Drew, if the Giants can hold up their end a little bit more frequently and get to the postseason, I mean, we got to have a bigger sample size. I know what you're driving at here, but if the Giants can get to the postseason as often, then we can get a better sample size. And I know that there's a couple of big wins in there that you might want to mention as a retort. But, you know, again, you're in the Granite State, Drew. I don't understand why you want to do that.
Just a couple more here, Tom, real quick.
Sure.
With Gronk and Brady in Tampa Bay, what do you think the record for the Bucs will be, and how does it change the outlook for that division? Can you foresee a Brady versus Breeze NFC Championship game?
I think they were going to be 12-4. And again, I'll give you the logic for them based on last year that I gave for the Patriots. That team went 7-9 last year. 7 of their games, they lost by a touchdown or less. Their quarterback, Jameis Winston, had 35 turnovers all by himself, 30 picks and 5 lost fumbles. Brady couldn't have 35 turnovers if you wheeled him out there at 77 and asked him to play the position. It just wouldn't happen. So you're going to see that improvement. You've also seen the addition of Gronk. You've seen the maturation, again, of guys like Godwin and Evans. So I think that's going to be a very good team. And I think Brady's going to have a very good year.
Do you think the way that the Pats treated Brady on his way out, someone who had sacrificed so much for the team, do you think that will have any negative impact for other players who might say, I don't really want to go there? Or maybe there are other things that may discourage players from considering the Pats.
The players who are already here, as much as they say, oh, I'm surprised, I didn't think it was going to happen, they should have. I don't think that Dante Hightower, for instance, who's been here since 2011 and saw the jettisoning of Logan Mankins and a number of others, would say, I didn't see that happening. It's what they do, and it's not bad. It's just how Bill is. He wants to reboot. He wants to be out a year early rather than a year late. He gets the itch, and Brady understood that. I do think that while that won't hurt players coming here, this is important. Belichick is incredibly difficult, as we all know, to play for. He demands more. If you're like, it's like going to St. A's. It really is. I mean, my first semester was my best semester. I got a 2.6. My last, I graduated with a 2.4. There was one kid, I think his name was Richard Rose, who was, what is it, magna cum laude if you're over 3.7? One friggin' kid. Nobody gets good grades there. You know how many of my friends were sub 2? All of them. So, you know, you have a choice when you go to a St. A's or the Patriots. You got to understand, you're going to have a great experience, but you're going to have to kind of work pretty hard, and it's going to be a very unique experience from what you might have at another college or another team. I wouldn't trade it, and every player who played for the Patriots wouldn't trade it. But it is amusing to look back and realize, Tricia, right? Tricia, unmute yourself. This is Tricia Guanci-Terrian. Did you ever have over a 3-0?
I beat you a little bit. I think I got a 2.46.
See? My brother went there. He graduated in 87. He was in like this political science honors society, Pi Gamma Mu. And you had to get into that if you had over a 3.0 in your major. And he had an over 3.0 in his major with Dr. Savage and who was the other maniac? Dr. Gabriel, Professor Gabriel. But nobody had those grades. So, yeah.
The education you got, Tom.
What?
Look at that education you got.
I don't know. No, I'm saying it works. It's just the numbers. The numbers are not ones you want to flaunt.
It's all about the quality, Tom.
That's
it's
right,
all
quality.
About the quality.
How many more we got? I don't mind doing a few more.
Okay. I know you got to run.
No, I just don't mind doing a few more. I just want to clean it up if I could.
Okay, so I desperately wanted the Pats to stay at 23 and take the LB out of Oklahoma. Why can't they stay and take him instead of typically trading down? Is it because they want lesser known LBs who are more versatile in multiple looks? This is from Dan Slattery. Also, where's your COVID beard and mustache? If DJ Bean can showcase that poor excuse of a mustache.
I appreciate that. Yeah, DJ's my co-worker at Boston Sports Tonight. It's tough to look at. You're right. Kenneth Murray, who you're talking about, he's terrific. The Patriots lost Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy. Huge outflow of talent. When you add Rob Ninkovich and Trey Flowers into the mix, that's having left in the last few years, a lot of pass rush has gone out the door. I don't know if Murray would have brought that, but it might have made it possible to put Hightower on the edge and get upfield. So, yeah, I'm with you. But if you don't have a second-round pick, and they didn't, thanks to the Mohamed Sanu trade, which I still think was a good idea at the time, it made sense to jump out and add that. So great questions. I tried to grow it, and I don't mind it. It looks okay. I was stunned. It took me forever to grow a mustache. Finally, at 52, I can. I just took it off because, I mean, there's only so much hair. Dr. Leonard, and if you need 1-800-GET-HAIR, they're back at it again, putting new plugs for all of us. If you need it, 1-800-GET-HAIR. Look at that. You too can join.
There you go. One last question here, and then we'll wrap it up. Again, it's about the salary cap. If it's projected to plummet to 50%, that jumpstart the Patriots rebuild if they have the least amount of dollars on the books next year? Or do you think the league will make it a one-year uncapped exception so teams don't need to slash salary?
Dwani, and I'm not sure if this is Dwani or one of the Dwanis.
It is.
Okay. Listen,
Dwani.
I haven't seen that story yet. Is my voice coming in okay to you? Because yours was just growly to me.
Oh, sorry.
I will.
Yeah, you sound good, Tom.
Okay, I got to check that because I hadn't seen it. I have been wondering. I'm like, okay, the TV contracts for NBC, Fox, and I'm an NBC guy. I mean, you know, we're seeing, and I'm not really talking out of school here, as you might imagine. We're the Celtics station. No Celtics games. Tough to sell that inventory of ad time, especially when we're narrowing down. So this is difficult for the regional sports networks. It's difficult for the major sports networks. It's difficult for the teams. What are these all important television contracts going to look like? How is it going to impact players going forward and their agreement, and how much money is going to be there? So great question.
He said it. So Pat's Cap on Twitter had some things posted on it. So
he always does. That's Miguel Benzan, and it's a story worth doing. I have a bunch of stories on the launch pad right now to do. I'm just such a procrastinator. You know what, Doc, have you found, Doctor, that it's hard being in your house in terms of compartmentalizing and focusing in on that one job for the 2 hours it might take to finish it?
absolutely.
That's what I have the worst time with. I'm a wanderer when I write. I got to be moving around. And if I'm not, I'm going, you know, Pro Football Talk to, you know, Facebook to Barstool to, you know, ESPN to just click around. And the next thing I know, I watched, you guys know what Shacked and a Fool is? I spent an hour watching TNT YouTube Shacked and a Fool highlights last night when I could have been writing a damn story. Anyway.
Well, the last comment is, Tom, you're the bestest, from Drew Litz again. Giants fans appreciate your zeal, and I graduated with a bit higher GPA than you, but not much. So,
let me say hi to, I see there's a Father Bernard. I should reach out to the clergy. Do I think he'll be patient enough to get through the rebuilding to win the all-time coaching wins record? I think it's going to take 5 or 6 years. Does he want to do it until he's 73, 74? He's in great shape. I think he's still got the zeal. But it might be hard to haul himself in there to go 6-10.
Yeah.
Not to be too negative. He might be 12-3. I don't know. 12-4.
Any final thoughts for us, Tom, as what you'll be looking for in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. A schedule release tonight. Please watch us on Boston Sports Tonight, an early edition. You want to follow me on Twitter. It's at Tommy Curran. I enjoyed the hell out of this. As with anything, sometimes you're like, oh, no, I have to do that thing at noon.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I agree to it? And then you start doing it. You're like, oh, this was fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
And that's because these interactions, I think, are so, and to just editorialize.
Well,
getting out and talking to people are very helpful, is helpful for the brain. So thank you, Doctor, and Tracy and Patricia.
Absolutely. No, thank you for being here. And on behalf of St. Anne's A's, thanks so much. And thanks everyone for joining us Hope you have a great day. Go Pats.
Take care.
All right. Bye now.